Hi, you're watching Reddit Confessions. Today's story begins with silence. Not the kind that follows a fight, no. The kind that comes before one. The kind that buzzes louder than shouting ever could. I was holding her wrist. Gently. Carefully. Like it might shatter. She wasn't crying. She wasn't yelling. She was just looking at me. And I swear, that look. It didn't have hate in it. It had nothing. That's what scared me most. Take your hands off me, she said. Love has to be earned. No trembling voice. No tears. Just precision. Like she'd rehearsed that line in the mirror. I let go. She walked past me barefoot, polished toenails, gym bag in hand, no wedding ring, and she didn't even flinch when the door clicked behind her. You ever see a hallway swallow someone? Because that's what it felt like. Now, I know how this sounds. You're probably thinking, dude, what did you do? And I get it. But you have to understand something. I didn't cheat. I didn't lie. I didn't raise my voice. I was just available. All the time. Too available. Apparently, that's a crime now. She used to say I was too good to be true. Turns out, that meant too boring to be kept. That night, after she left, I did something I hadn't done in years. I opened the guest bedroom drawer where she kept her old iPhone. She forgot to reset it. It synced automatically. Messages. Photos. Voice memos. One stood out, an audio file. Labeled simply. Let's not feel bad. I clicked it. Her voice, low and breathless. Ezra's sweet. He's safe. He'll survive. But I want you. He'll never do what you do to me. And the laugh that followed? It wasn't hers. At least, not the one I knew. You ever sit still for so long that your fingers go numb? That was me. On the floor. In the dark. Listening to my wife confess her excitement over another man. On a phone she left behind like trash. So I got up. I walked into the kitchen. And I began planning. Not revenge. Not confrontation. Escape. She said love had to be earned. Fine. Then let her chase it. I didn't sleep that night. I didn't even sit down. I just walked the length of the hallway like I was counting steps in a prison cell. I kept hearing her voice, over and over, not the words, but the way she said them. Take your hands off me. Like I was a stranger. Like I hadn't held her hair when she was throwing up from food poisoning in Mexico. Like I hadn't carried her through the snow after her heel snapped downtown. You don't say something like that to a man who's seen you at your lowest and stayed anyway. But she did. And worse, she meant it. By 3:12 a.m., I'd made my decision. I wasn't going to confront her. Not yet. That would give her too much power. If she wanted space, if she wanted distance, fine. I would give her more than she could handle. I'd give her the silence she thought she wanted. I'd let her miss me, without ever leaving the house. The next morning, I acted like nothing had happened. I didn't ask where she went the night before. I didn't mention the unlocked iPhone. I didn't bring up the recording. I simply made her coffee, black, no sugar, and left it steaming on the counter like I always did. I didn't even wait for her to drink it. I walked right past her, grabbed my keys, and said I'd be working late. She looked surprised, not because I had plans, but because I didn't ask about hers. That was the beginning of the shift. I stopped being predictable. I stopped being available. No more late-night back rubs. No more midday texts checking in. No more listening to her vent about coworkers I'd never meet while she forgot to ask how my day was. Instead, I started documenting. Quietly. Carefully. I downloaded copies of every synced message I could find. She had no idea her iCloud was still connected to the guest phone. Rookie mistake. Or maybe she thought I was too spineless to look. Either way, the truth was coming through, and it was uglier than I imagined. Turns out, she didn't just have a thing with one guy. She had an arrangement, a secret circle of late-night, gym sessions, with a man named Colby. Yeah. Colby. The name alone sounded like someone who flexed in every mirror he passed. Their messages weren't even emotional. That somehow made it worse. No longing. No deep connections. Just logistics. Times. Places. Codes to apartment gates. Pictures taken in half-lit hotel rooms with captions like, "Still not suspicious." The rage I expected never came. What I felt instead was humiliation, a deep, bone-splitting embarrassment that I had become such a non-threat in my own marriage that I was being cheated on with zero effort to hide it. That's when it hit me, she didn't just fall out of love. She stopped seeing me altogether. I had become furniture. Silent. Reliable. Forgotten. And she had underestimated me. I started preparing small things. Changes she wouldn't notice right away. Quiet moves. I redirected our joint account alerts to my private email. I started moving small amounts out, nothing obvious, just enough to build a quiet landing zone. I created a new Dropbox folder labeled Wedding Photos, and filled it with every piece of digital evidence I had, the texts, the recordings, the location data. Then I set a scheduled email to send it all, just not yet. Timing was everything. The best part? I began journaling everything. Every glance. Every excuse. Every shift in her mood. But not because I was clinging to hope, no. Because if this was going to end, I wanted to remember everything. I wanted to remember the exact moment she started treating me like I wasn't enough, so I'd never let someone do it again. You see, I'm not planning to destroy her. I'm not planning to scream or beg or get dramatic. That's what she expects. No, Mallory is going to feel what I felt, slowly, quietly, relentlessly. Not through revenge, but through a perfectly timed absence. A disappearing act so silent she won't even realize I'm gone until there's no one left to blame but herself. Because sometimes, love isn't earned. It's wasted. She didn't notice at first. That's the thing about people who think they're in control, they don't look behind them. They just assume everyone's going to stay where they were last left. Like I'm some loyal dog that always comes back when she whistles. But I had stopped waiting. I had stopped barking at closed doors. The first time she noticed something was off was a Tuesday. It was small. Barely even a moment. She walked into the kitchen and looked at the fridge, then at me, and said, "Did you cancel the wine shipment?" She said it like she already knew the answer. That's how she talked to me now, like I was the assistant she couldn't quite fire. I said, "No, I just changed the card." And I walked past her. The next moment, her eyes narrowed. Not because she cared about the wine. Because she realized she didn't have access to the new card. Then I started sleeping in the guest room. I didn't tell her why. I didn't offer a single explanation. I just folded my pillow, took a blanket, and walked down the hall like I had something better to do. It drove her crazy. I could hear her pacing at night. Doors opening. Closing. The sound of her brushing her teeth too loudly like that would somehow make me ask what was wrong. I didn't. I slept peacefully. For the first time in years. It's amazing how quiet your mind gets when you finally stop begging someone to see you. I still played the role, of course. I still made coffee. I still responded to her texts with one-word answers. But I wasn't there. Not really. I'd already started fading, like a ghost who hadn't been invited to haunt the house he built. And every day, I caught her checking me, glancing from behind her phone like she was trying to solve a puzzle she thought would be easier. Because in her mind, I wasn't capable of mystery. I wasn't interesting enough to cause chaos. Just the mug rearranging husband who says sorry before he even gets blamed. Until one night, a Thursday, everything shifted. She got home late. Too late. Past 11. And she didn't bother pretending. No excuses. No fake meetings. Just walked in wearing shoes that weren't hers. I knew because I'd seen every pair she owned. I was the one who built the shoe shelf she never thanked me for. These ones were red, high-heeled, and not broken in. Her steps were slower than usual. Almost like guilt had weight. But when she walked past me, she just said, "Don't wait up next time." I didn't. I waited until she fell asleep, then walked into the closet, picked up those shoes, and held them. They were still warm. Still shaped to her feet. And for some reason, that hit harder than the audio messages. She had worn someone else's gift like it was nothing. Like I wasn't even worth changing before coming home. So that night, I made my real move. I didn't burn her clothes. I didn't scream into the void or write a letter she'd never read. I booked a weekend getaway. Just for me. Somewhere quiet. Secluded. No return address. I paid in cash. Told no one. Then I left early the next morning, before the sun came up. No note. No breakfast. No goodbye. Just gone. I turned off my phone halfway through the drive. Left the wedding ring in the cup holder. I didn't cry. I didn't smile either. It wasn't revenge. It wasn't closure. It was something better. Something final. And the best part? I knew exactly what would happen when she woke up and found the silence. She'd check the guest phone. She'd find the Dropbox folder. She'd listen to the recordings. She'd realize I had everything, and I was done playing nice. She'd finally feel the absence of the man she thought would never leave. And maybe, just maybe, she'd realize that love doesn't have to be earned. But some betrayals sure as hell do. The funny thing about disappearing is that you don't need to go far, just far enough to be missed. And that's exactly what I did. I spent the weekend at an old roadside cabin 2 towns over, a place so quiet you could hear your own thoughts echo. It had no TV, no Wi-Fi, just a warped wooden deck, a dusty kettle, and a mattress that creaked like it hated company. But it was perfect. I needed to hear myself again. To remember what I sounded like when I wasn't apologizing for existing. Meanwhile, I imagined her at home, the creak of our bedroom floor without my footsteps, the untouched mug on the counter, the inbox flooded with silence instead of updates. But what I imagined most, was the moment she checked the phone. And according to the notification I set up through my hidden account, she did, at 9:42 a.m. on Saturday. That's when the folder opened. That's when the audio played. That's when she realized I knew. I pictured her sitting up straight in bed, replaying it just to make sure she hadn't misheard. Hearing her own voice confess the things she thought were buried. Listening to herself belittle me, dismiss me, talk about me like I was a harmless dog on a leash. I wondered if she flinched. If she looked at the mirror afterward. If her hands trembled. But more than anything, I wondered if it mattered to her. By the time I came back Sunday evening, the house looked almost the same, but it felt staged, like she had tried to rewind time without knowing what time looked like anymore. The wine glasses were arranged differently. A candle was burning in the kitchen, vanilla, which she knew I hated. And she was wearing that sweater I once said made her look like someone I hadn't lost yet. I didn't say a word when I walked in. I just placed my bag on the floor and looked at her. She stared at me like she was trying to figure out who I had become. "Where were you?" she finally asked, pretending like it hadn't been 2 days of silence. Her voice cracked a little, not enough for most to hear it, but I caught it. I shrugged. Just needed a reset. Her jaw tightened. You left without telling me. I tilted my head. You said not to wait up. She stood there, still trying to win a game that had already ended. Did you go through my stuff? There it was. Not worry. Not guilt. Defense. I walked to the sink, rinsed out a mug, and said, I saw enough. She crossed her arms. So what now? You're going to punish me with silence? No, I said. I'm going to give you exactly what you asked for. A chance to earn love. From scratch. She didn't expect that. Her mouth opened, but no words came. She looked like someone who had trained for every fight, except the one where the opponent stops throwing punches. That night, I stayed in the guest room again. I heard her crying, not loud, not dramatic. Just these little broken sounds like someone whispering into a pillow they thought would answer back. But I didn't get up. I didn't knock. I didn't save her from herself. The next morning, the silence was heavy. She made breakfast, eggs, toast, even coffee with cinnamon the way I used to like it, but I just grabbed a banana and left. I didn't touch the plate. I didn't say thank you. She stood by the stove like a stranger waiting for the bus, holding a pan full of something no one asked for. This was new territory for her. Mallory didn't know how to chase. She didn't know how to prove herself. She knew how to manipulate, how to deflect, how to maintain control. But now, with every word she tried to say and every gesture that fell flat, I watched her unravel in reverse. I wasn't seeking revenge. I was handing her the very emptiness she gave me for months, with one crucial difference. She knew it was coming. And that's what made it unbearable. By midweek, Mallory's mask had started to slip. I don't think she realized it yet, how obvious it was. The overly casual conversations. The sudden, "How was your day?" texts in the middle of work hours. The random jokes she hadn't told in years, delivered with a nervous smile that begged for warmth she didn't deserve anymore. But I gave her nothing. Not coldness. Not cruelty. Just stillness. That was the part she couldn't handle. Mallory had always known how to navigate chaos, she could spin it, shape it, survive it. But indifference? That was uncharted territory. She didn't know how to react when I didn't flinch, didn't fight, didn't even care enough to argue. She started staying home more, pretending to be busy, lighting candles she never used to light, baking muffins that ended up untouched in the freezer. Her whole routine changed, not for herself, but for me. Like decorating a burned-down house. I could have taken pleasure in watching her squirm. But I didn't. Because under all the power I was reclaiming, I still hurt. I still woke up in the middle of the night thinking about that damn voice note. I still saw flashes of her laughter in those photos she took with Colby, not forced laughter, but real. And I hated that it still wounded me. That Friday, while she was in the shower, I went looking for something in her office, an old warranty folder for the fridge, something stupid and boring. But as I opened the filing cabinet, I noticed the bottom drawer, the one that had always been jammed, was now sliding open. A smooth glide, no resistance. I don't know why I noticed. Maybe I was trained to. When you've been lied to long enough, your brain learns how to hear secrets in silence. Inside wasn't paperwork. There was a box. A small, velvet box tucked beneath a layer of receipts and an old journal she probably forgot existed. I opened it. And everything slowed. Inside were 3 items, a silver necklace I didn't recognize, a folded letter with no name on it, and a Polaroid photo of Mallory, younger, barefoot, sitting on the hood of a car, with Colby beside her. His arm was around her waist. Her head rested on his shoulder. There was no timestamp, but I could tell from her hair it was recent. Too recent. I opened the letter next. It was handwritten. Sloppy penmanship. Smudged ink. Don't forget who you were with me. If things go bad, I meant what I said, I'll wait. No more hiding. No name. No signature. But it didn't need one. I knew. So she hadn't just been fooling around. She was planning her next chapter. I wasn't just a doormat, I was the placeholder. The safety net. The exit plan with health insurance. I closed the drawer without a sound. I went back to the kitchen. I poured myself a glass of water. She walked in 20 minutes later with her hair wrapped in a towel, eyes scanning me for some trace of the man she used to control. "You okay?" she asked, voice light. I nodded. "Yep. Just thinking." She tilted her head. "About what?" I smiled politely. "What I'll take when I leave." She blinked. "What?" I finished my water. "You heard me. I didn't shout. I didn't cry. I just said it like a grocery list item." And for the first time in weeks, I saw something in her face that hadn't been there before: fear. Not panic. Not anger. Real, pure fear. Because she finally understood what she'd broken wasn't just a man's heart. She'd broken the illusion that I needed her. And that illusion had kept her safe. Mallory didn't say anything for the rest of that night. Not a word. She cooked dinner like it was any other Thursday. Set the table for two. Even poured me a glass of wine and placed it by my usual seat, as if we could rewind a marriage with side dishes. I didn't sit. I grabbed a granola bar from the cabinet, walked past the roasted salmon like it was an empty chair, and headed upstairs to the guest room again. The silence between us had evolved. It wasn't passive anymore. It was tactical. She wasn't ignoring me to hurt me, she was listening for weakness. Watching for cracks. She was trying to calculate how much damage she'd really done. And more importantly, whether she could undo it. The next morning, I saw her phone on the bathroom counter while she was brushing her teeth. I don't know why I picked it up, maybe curiosity, maybe masochism. Maybe because deep down, even after everything, I needed to see if she was still lying. She was. The last message was to a number saved as E. "You didn't say if you were still coming next weekend. Just tell me if you're out. No drama." I didn't recognize the number, but it wasn't Colby. That part was clear. The writing style was different. Sharper. Less romantic. Like someone who was losing patience. I scrolled up. Most of the previous messages had been deleted. But one thread remained, an audio file from a few weeks ago. It hadn't been opened. I clicked it. There was rustling. The sound of keys. Footsteps. Then a voice I didn't recognize, deep, frustrated, American accent, maybe mid-40s. "He doesn't know. Seriously, Mal. I've played nice long enough. You said by June. You said he'd be gone. I'm not gonna be your backup anymore." And then, a slam. Like someone hitting a table or maybe a steering wheel. Then silence. I stared at the screen. My heart didn't even race. It just sank. Because what I'd thought was a single betrayal, was part of something bigger. She hadn't just replaced me emotionally. She had a lineup. A strategy. Options. I wasn't her husband anymore, I was an expired lease she was trying to exit cleanly. Colby had been the cover story. But this guy? Whoever E was, he was the real plan. I set the phone down just as she came out of the shower. She noticed me staring. Something wrong? I looked her in the eyes. "Nope. Just wondering if you ever loved me." She paused for just half a breath, a hesitation so small it would have been missed by anyone who hadn't studied her like I had. Then she smiled. "Don't be dramatic." That was it. Don't be dramatic. Like it was my fault for reacting to being erased. Later that day, while she was out, I made my final move. I contacted a lawyer, not the expensive shark she'd expect, but someone quiet, discreet, who specialized in clean exits. I started documenting everything, her movements, her accounts, her calendar entries that didn't line up with her explanations. I recorded a backup of the phone messages from that number. I even printed out the letter I found in her drawer. Everything was backed up twice, once on a hard drive, and again in an encrypted folder online with a timed release. This wasn't about hurting her anymore. This was about freeing myself with proof. That night, she made another attempt to play the doting wife. She came into the guest room wearing the robe she used to wear in the early years, the one she knew made me stop everything just to look at her. She stood in the doorway, one hand resting against the frame, and whispered, "Do you want to talk?" I stared at her, quiet. She tried again. "Ezra. Can we just talk like we used to?" And I wanted to. I really did. But instead, I said something I never imagined I'd say. "Tell me who he is." The change was immediate. Her whole body stiffened. Her smile dropped so fast I thought it had been stapled in place. Her eyes darkened. Her mouth opened, closed again. She wasn't ready. She hadn't prepared for that card to be played. "I don't know what you're talking about," she lied. "Then you won't mind if I send the audio to my lawyer," I said softly, already opening my phone. She moved toward me quickly. Too quickly. "Ezra, wait." But I didn't flinch. I didn't yell. I didn't even raise my voice. I just stared at her like she was a stranger walking through a life she didn't belong in anymore. Because that's what she was now. A stranger. Wearing my wife's skin. Mallory didn't sleep that night. She tossed. Turned. Padded barefoot across the hallway twice. Opened and shut drawers that didn't need anything. I heard it all through the thin wall separating the guest room from the life we used to share. But I never moved. I lay there with my eyes wide open, watching shadows move across the ceiling, thinking about how someone could lay beside you for years while planning a world that didn't include you. By morning, her tone had changed. "Ezra, can we talk? Really talk?" She cornered me in the kitchen like a campaign manager prepping for damage control. Her voice was soft, her hair still damp, no makeup. This was her vulnerable mode, something I hadn't seen since our 5th anniversary. The last time she cried in front of me, it was over a movie about a dying dog. This time, the stakes were real. Her voice shook just enough to seem sincere. "Whatever you think you heard, it's not what you think. That guy, he doesn't matter. I was stupid. I was lonely. You were always so," she paused, searching for a word. "Distant." Distant? I nearly laughed. I had offered her every piece of me, begged for closeness she pushed away like it had an expiration date. But I didn't correct her. I let her talk. She rambled about needing clarity, about how women her age get scared, about the way she thought I stopped trying. All the classics. She threw them at the wall like spaghetti, hoping something would stick. But none of it did. Because by that afternoon, I had already done the one thing she never expected. I met him. I wasn't planning to. I had only wanted to confirm his identity. But after tracing the phone number she used to message I discovered a business listing, a small contractor firm not far from the city. I made a call, asked about a quote for a fake home renovation, and when I arrived, he was the one who opened the gate. His name was Everett. He was taller than me. Stronger, sure. Looked like a guy who wore tank tops in the winter just to prove something. But his eyes? His eyes gave him away. Defensive. Paranoid. He wasn't the alpha she painted in those recordings. He looked tired. Like he'd been waiting too long for something that never arrived. "You Everett?" I asked. "Yeah. You the guy with the patio job?" I nodded. "Something like that." He led me to the side yard where samples were laid out on a table. As he rattled off options, I stared at his hands. Calloused. Worn. This man had probably never sat through a therapy session, never folded laundry without being asked. And yet, this was who my wife had chosen to whisper to in secret. When he turned his back to grab a brochure, I asked, "Did Mallory tell you she was still married when she promised to run off with you?" The change was instant. His shoulders stiffened. His hand paused mid-reach. "I don't know what you mean," he said without turning. "You should." "You're on a recording," I replied. "You said she promised June. It's almost September." He finally looked at me. His jaw twitched. "You're her husband." "Still technically," I said, cool as ever. "But not for long." He didn't speak for a moment. Then, to my surprise, he scoffed. "Figures. She said you'd fold. Said you were the soft type." I nodded slowly. "And yet I'm the one standing here. Not hiding behind a voicemail." He didn't respond. Just stared at the table. Maybe embarrassed. Maybe angry. But there was something else too, regret. "She played both of us," I said. "You were the escape. I was the safety. Neither of us were the truth." He gritted his teeth. "I thought she loved me." I tilted my head. "So did I." Then I turned and left. When I got home, Mallory was sitting on the steps outside, like a child waiting to be forgiven. When she saw my face, her body straightened. She must have known I went to find him. She must have been wondering what he told me. I walked past her. She followed. "What did he say?" I didn't answer. "Ezra, please." I stopped in the hallway and turned to her. "You lied to both of us. He waited for you. I waited for you. And you made promises you had no intention of keeping. Not to him. Not to me. Just to yourself." Tears filled her eyes. I didn't know what I wanted. "No," I said coldly. "You just didn't want to choose." Then I handed her a folder, plain manila, sealed at the top. "What's this?" "Evidence. For the lawyer. I filed this morning." Her hands shook. "You're divorcing me." "I'm releasing you," I whispered. "So you can finally earn the love you said I didn't." She collapsed against the wall. Not dramatically, just like someone who'd run out of legs to stand on. But I didn't stay. I didn't offer comfort. I went upstairs, shut the door, and listened to the sound of silence doing my job for me. The final morning in that house was quiet. No yelling. No slammed doors. Just me, standing in front of the kitchen window, sipping coffee I actually enjoyed for the first time in months. Mallory had gone to stay with her sister the night before. She said she needed space to think. I didn't argue. I didn't even ask when she was coming back. Because for once, I wasn't waiting. I'd already packed the essentials, my notebooks, hard drives, a few hoodies, and a ridiculous coffee mug with a chipped handle that said, "Everything will be fine." I found it buried in the back of the cabinet. Fitting, really. Forgotten, but still intact. As I walked through the house one last time, it didn't feel like morning. It felt like closure. I wasn't running. I wasn't escaping. I was stepping away from a life that asked me to shrink. A life where I poured everything into someone who only saw me as a placeholder, and now I was done holding that place. Before I left her a note. Not out of kindness. Out of clarity. "Mallory. You told me love had to be earned. I agree now, which is why I'm choosing to give mine to someone who knows how to value it. I wish you healing. I wish you honesty. But most of all, I wish you time alone, so you can finally hear the silence you once gave me. Goodbye. Ezra. I didn't sign it with bitterness. I didn't leave behind anger. Just truth. It's been 6 weeks now. I'm staying in a small cabin near a lake about an hour out. I write a lot. I hike. I don't check my phone as often. I've started therapy. And I've even joined a local book club, mostly women in their 50s who make jokes about red wine and know more about self-worth than I probably ever will. I'm not rushing into anything. I'm not trying to move on. I'm just trying to be. And for the first time in a long time, I like the person I'm becoming. As for Mallory, I don't know where her story ends. And I don't need to. That chapter's closed. She said love had to be earned. She was right. And I'm finally learning how to earn it, by starting with myself. Thanks for watching this story on Reddit Confessions. If this moment moved you, or reminded you of a moment where you had to walk away from someone who took you for granted, drop it in the comments. What was your turning point? Your enough is enough moment. We'd love to hear how you found your peace. And remember, sometimes walking away isn't the end. It's the beginning. Subscribe for more real, raw, and emotional stories, only on Reddit Confessions.